order, Parks and Recreation Commission, March 3rd, 2022. And we're at 6:01 still, PM. We have item 2, our approval of minutes for February 3rd meeting.
I'll move approval of the minutes, but with many edits. I did try to do a lot of this in advance. Early last week, I spent several hours and went through many replays of the section of the minutes on the McGaw Park, and I sent that to Scott Monday of last week so that it would be in time, plenty of time to add it into the draft minutes, but that is not in there yet, but I would like that included. The one part that I did cite in there was that the adjournment originally said that the adjourned moved by Heidi Reynolds and the meeting ended at 9:18. That was actually from the January minutes. So I pointed out that Heidi was not in attendance, so she couldn't have moved for adjournment. It was actually Sarah moved to adjourn, second by Julia. Motion ended. Meeting, actually, that should say meeting ended. No, motion carried, that's okay. Motion carried 7:29 p.m. That part is correct. Then, other things that I caught later.
7:29.
9:29.
9:29, yeah.
9:29, that's correct.
I wish it would have been 7:29.
Yeah, well, okay. Then other things that I caught later, in the call to order, we usually have a line in there that says others attending, which should be added in here, which would be David Halford, Nancy Halford, Wade Thompson, Joran Friedland, and I don't know if Steve Arnold registered for anything or if he was just attending. If he registered for something, then he would be listed as attending the meeting also. And then in 5A, I would like a line added. That was the one, North Fishery Hub Road final design by Wade Thompson. I would like a line added, not that this information that we were seeing in the meeting was not in the packet for the commission or the public to review prior to the meeting. That made it quite difficult in the meeting. So I would like that line added in there. In the, let's see, the second paragraph of there, it says Patrick Cheney notes he would not be in favor of eliminating the covered portion of the picnic area. That's not what I said. At that point right there, I questioned if the canopy could be delayed to the Phase 1B because it was a $79,000 item and it was the most expensive item on the list of what we were reviewing. So that's what I actually said at that point. I think I got mixed up with the next line that says Patrick Cheney indicated he would not be in favor of reducing the size of the building, which is correct. The next paragraph is by Chris Cena, and the wording is not great in there, but I'm going to leave that to Chris if he wants anything changed for what his comments were there. And then next, on 5C, this is the small-scale ag park. The second sentence says, this 15-acre park facility with agricultural theme with include small-scale community. That should say will include, W-I-L-L. And then, let me know if I should slow down or repeat anything. 5D, end of the second paragraph, it says ARPA question mark TID. That should be ARPA/TID. And then, let's see. In the McGaw Park, it only says Patrick Cheney provided comments. That was not sufficient. So that's what I sent to Scott last Monday of last week. And then, let's see. Oh, the adjournment I already covered. So those are my edits.
Any other discussion or question about the wording of the minutes or the changes Patrick is suggesting?
In particular, if Chris is okay with those comments and the one thing.
Yeah, I think it covers the gist.
Okay,
Fine.
good enough.
If I might,
Please.
could we go back now? What was the first group of edits that you were proposing, Patrick?
The ones I sent you last week, Monday,
In my
along with the different adjournment line
Yep.
in there.
And those are the ones that you provided me? And
Yes.
do you want to share what I provided back to you?
Just that you sent it back to me.
I sent it back to you that I felt that the minutes reflected if there was any inaccurate information in the minutes.
Oh, yeah, there was nothing inaccurate, was there?
No, and then
Okay.
I suggested that, those are good, because you said that you took the time to go through
Yeah,
the tape.
a lot
and
of time,
And I thanked you for that,
yeah.
and I.
Well, yeah, I mean, I sent it to you because I wanted it included in the minutes, because there was a lot of agreements and a lot of promises and a lot of notations and such that we spoke of in the meeting right here that you agreed to, the chair agreed to, and I wanted it noted in the minutes, because then there was a whole long email back and forth about including the correct resolution, and we agreed to do that. So this is the correct resolution that we were talking about with a couple of extra words down here that we were, debating and everything. And that was kind of like going all month long. That was finally put into our February packet yesterday.
Patrick,
And I
now,
would also like this letter that you sent that was attached to it to be included in the packet as well, because that shows what you sent out to the neighbors at that time, and it's signed by you.
Okay, so please, we are not going to spend half an hour in
Well, I sent this last Monday.
Okay, so that one should be off between you and Scott, and we need to move on in the agenda.
Scott, you replied back to about keeping the minutes brief, and what you provided to us is the concise accounting of the minutes of the meeting that you presented to us. So,
That's not what I got from Scott.
No, you're correct, Sue. You're correct.
Yeah.
I provided the factual, it wasn't a verbatim of everything that was discussed. It was the information that was included in the discussion, and that was prompted my question to Patrick if there was something that was misstated in there, which he indicated that there wasn't. So he has just provided additional text and additional information, which I stated, that's a great record, keep it. If we ever come back to it, we can do that.
Well, that's what the minutes are for. And I mean, this says right here, Patrick Cheney provided comments. That is way insufficient. And I will point out that other meetings, if you look at the other meetings, TAC, for example, puts a lot of comments and questions and answers into theirs. In fact, TTC does that. RCC puts pretty much every question and answer in, and TAC covers everything that they discuss in their meetings. So they are far more elaborate and comprehensive in their minutes. So our minutes are kind of thin sometimes. So if you look at those, everybody, covers more things than this. So that's why I put a lot of time into writing that up. It's very accurate. And I checked the meeting many times over to make sure that it was good for all the conversations, so I'm not making anything up. And there was a lot of things that were agreed to in
Right,
there
Patrick?
that need to be in the minutes.
we have to move along. Sarah Schrader
Fine.
has a remark. Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I disagree with Patrick saying that the comments regarding McGaw aren't accurately reflected, and I'm not comfortable adding commentary to the minutes that occurred within emails. That is not something that I'm comfortable with. I guess when I had read the minutes, the only comment that I had was within the C section that I did get a little bit confused about that second period or second sentence. That I guess I don't know if we move forward with, if anyone wants to second Patrick's recommendations and move forward there. I guess I would not. I don't feel comfortable with that. My only feedback was going to be on that section C, that second sentence confused me. Just a recommendation, I guess, if we get a second on Patrick's and take a vote to make the recommended changes, or if there's additional discussion for a potential other modification.
Do we have a second for Patrick's?
In the past, Scott has asked me to write stuff up and give it to him, so I did way early.
Correct. And I appreciate that, you found some other typo errors or where, things aren't attributed in 5A that you mentioned. But having a verbatim, long list of everything discussed for the McGaw Park section of last month's meeting, which the end result of that discussion was that this commission voted to say it's a staff administrative decision.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that, I wrote that.
So lengthy minutes about all the discussion between opening that topic on the agenda and the vote doesn't add to the outcome. So I'm not, if there's, and the rest of us haven't seen this long verbatim, and Scott's remarks to us are that the minutes that he put together for us are adequate, and I would agree with that personally.
Is that something that I received also?
I'm-
All I remember beginning is you just sent my text back to me.
No, I'm saying he just tonight has just stated these things tonight.
Oh.
That's what I'm referring to, I'm sorry. So there is no second on the recommendations for a more elaborate description of that final part, or do we want to do it?
Without seeing Patrick's comments from the email, everything else that he mentioned for clarifying and cleaning up the minutes seems appropriate. So, I mean, in that regard, I'm happy to second his motion.
So we're seconding what was verbally stated of minor corrections, is what we cannot second something in more detail for the last part of the minutes.
Okay, I will point out there were a lot of agreements that were at the meeting that this just says Patrick Cheney provided comments. There was a lot more than that.
Right, and
Really, this is kind of ridiculous. I mean, I'm being shorted here on a whole lot of points that I made, and then a lot of agreements that were made in the meeting. That's why I wrote all of that up way in advance last week, Monday, for Scott to add it into the draft minutes so everybody could see it. And, it didn't get added.
Well, what we really have offered is a second by Christopher that does not include comments for the last section of the meeting on McGaw Park, the administrative.
What about all the promises and?
Okay, please, let's stop this madness and vote this agenda and move on, because at 8 o'clock we need to be done with the meeting, okay? So, and this is we are spending amount of time in irrelevant thing, okay? I have seen other minutes from other commission that they don't have anything. They say approve or no approve, that's it. So, please. I start working at 7:30 in the morning this morning, so please, let's move on and.
Well, if we just pass it as I suggested, that'll take care of it.
Well, I think that this motion and the second don't match. So is there really, I understand what Christopher is saying. He would like to approve everything that we can approve of the small edits, but not adding more detail to the McGaw Park discussion. So,
Yeah, I understand. but,
Chris,
I mean,
are you
my-
willing, I would suggest
Edits are
you
accurate.
rescind your second? And does that make sense?
Well, if there's,
There is,
sure, if my second doesn't match Patrick's motion,
It doesn't.
then it's sort of moot, I suppose. So then I could move to approve the minutes with Patrick's verbal corrections
from tonight's,
that we just heard, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll do
Right.
that.
And so that is the motion. So,
No, that doesn't match what I said.
well, he's correct, it doesn't. So there's no
Tell
second.
me what's wrong with my. the
Is
minutes that I wrote.
there a second for, we don't have a second, Patrick, for what you want. We don't.
Any reason, like, is it inaccurate?
Well-
We could take an hour recess and everybody can watch the meeting over again
No.
and see if there's anything wrong with what I wrote up.
It won't
Want to
happen.
do that?
And we really have to continue.
Yeah. we
There's a
could just
video
pass it.
of the
It's
meeting.
accurate.
And so, do we have a second for Patrick's motion? We don't have a second for Patrick's. Is there a second for Christopher's motion?
I'll second.
All right, Katie is seconding. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. Find my agenda again. All right, item 3, public appearances, non-agenda items. We have Mr. Jake Johnson. He is here, and some of you may not know him. He is a former Parks Commission member and other services to the city. Go right ahead.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for your service. The last 20 minutes exemplifies what I don't miss about being involved in the city. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for your passion, Patrick. I'm here to talk about trees. This is the time of year that we do some planning for trees, and Anna is, our forester, is working very diligently. I should identify myself. Jake Johnson, 2617 Targhee Street. Over the past several years, I've done a lot of tree planting projects coordinated with Anna, but also with some schools in town, with the Optimist Club, and with some other not-for-profits. And we've planted well over 100 trees by now in Fitchburg, and Anna has been instrumental in helping us with that. So I absolutely applaud Scott and Anna and the job they do for that. This year, we have some ambitious plans, and I put a lot on Anna's plate, and I said, I hope this isn't too much for you, and she's going with it. So we have a large tree planting project at Pinnacle Park. Pinnacle Park is a small little 2-acre park up off of Post Road. So we're putting in some trees and some shrubs up there. We have volunteer group, the Green Club from West High School, who as of last count has 64 volunteers that want to help us plant some trees. So now we got to get some more trees. We also have a planting project at Gunflint that we are partnering with Eagle School, and we have a group of volunteers and alumni from Eagle School that's helping us plant trees, and we do it as an educational event, and we kind of help teach them how to do it, talk about the benefits of it, talk about species, and really kind of, the whole goal is to pay it forward so that people know how to do this and it can multiply. And so far, the evidence this year is that it is multiplying, it's growing exponentially. Anna has a project in Chicory Meadows, a restoration project in Chicory Meadows, and she has asked our volunteer group to come help with that, and we're happy to help with that. And then I should mention I'm speaking on behalf of the Sierra Club. I am on the executive committee of Sierra Club, and one of our missions this year, obviously combat climate change, planting trees, I could list thousands of reasons to plant trees, but this year specifically is a mission of equity that we have, that we want to make sure that everyone has access to parks and everyone has access to good parks, and that people are giving love and money and resources and passion to public spaces where people maybe traditionally haven't had them. So that was the start of why I chose Pinnacle Park. Pinnacle Park, actually, when I was on council, it was one of those parks that we never really did anything with, because the people that put the view apartments in had to dedicate some land, and they had a little chunk of land, and we got that. Long story there, I won't go into. But there's a little chunk of land there. It's beautiful off of Post Road, and it's just a chunk of land. It's got nothing. That park doesn't even have a master plan. So we're doing a little tree planting there, but it was brought up that we really want to try to engage that community that is in, one of the lower income census blocks here in Fitchburg, and we wanted to put some energy into an area that needs it. So then, that being said, at our last Sierra Club meeting, someone said, could we try to do a little bit of community outreach to engage those people and find out what they want in their park? Kind of talking about park planning, and I've talked to Scott about this. And so I guess what I'm asking of you, and this is not any formal ask, but just something to think about, is one, to think about more funding for trees in the future, but also to maybe give me a blessing to work with Scott on a short survey that I would make sure gets out to all of the apartments in that area to see what they would like for amenities in their park, and to maybe pose some ideas. We had talked grills. We had talked a trail so you could see into the Glacier Valley. We talked about a lot of trees. We talked about picnic tables. And so I think it's about time that the city and the community give some love to those apartment areas, those people who don't show up at public meetings because they're busy going from work to their apartment. And honestly, they identify as Madisonians when I go and I do voter registration over there. They say, I live in Madison. And I say, no, you don't. You live in Fitchburg. I guess I just wanted to open it to any questions you have and just hope that I could work with Scott in the coming weeks on maybe a survey that the city might be able to post on its website, and then we could let the apartment buildings know so they could let people know how to get involved in their park and how to weigh in on what they want there.
Thank you very much. And I see no reason why you shouldn't do just as you suggest and work with Scott and Anna as needed to facilitate the programs that you're going to work on. I don't know if anybody else has more to add.
Where is that park again?
Pinnacle Park, so if you head up Fish Hatchery, north on Fish Hatchery, and you turn right on Post Road.
Yes,
So you go by the View Apartments,
okay.
and it's down on the right before you get to the Jenny and Kyle Preserve. It's a triangle. If you're looking on Google Maps, it's
Yeah.
just a green triangle that is right next to the Jenny and Kyle Preserve. So it abuts
Oh, yeah.
county land and some private land. And quite honestly, it's an underutilized park. You know, people will go and, you know, throw a ball to their dog. Maybe we'll go walking, but there's not even a accessible curb. There's nowhere to get up there. There's no sidewalk. So it's just a green space right now. I haven't seen kids playing soccer there, but I think once we put these ideas out there, we might have a little bit more of that. But again, it started with trees. We want to build trees, or we want to plant a bunch of trees, and then someone said, well, we don't want to put them where there's going to be a soccer field or something in the future. And so we just want to work in concert with city planning and city parks so that we can help. And Sierra Club is committed to $1,000 for this year's project at Pinnacle. And we have more for more projects.
And I will report that we do have some park improvement dollars for that development. So the work that Jake would be doing would really be helping the department to get out to the community and find out what they want and create a plan and begin to start to implement it. So the help would be much appreciated, that's for sure.
I think it's great because we also approved the Ochala Drive development. It's another 170 units. And, and those people there don't have any place to do recreational. And we are, tonight we are going to discuss the hub, the other park on the other side. But I think it's great to have, more parks, especially in that area where we have plenty of apartments.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and myself, who lives in a very affluent neighborhood across the street over here, I mean, I've done tree planting projects there too, but we're not asking for city funds for that. We're not asking for Sierra Club money for that because we've got money for that. The people in these apartments aren't kicking in $10 each for this, but trees benefit all of us. And having a public space for people to recreate helps us all.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just
Oh, I'm
quickly-
sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just want to add kind of learning a little bit from our process with the Stoner Prairie Park last year, and then from some projects I've been working on personally. When getting out the survey, just to get like a good representative response, I would just maybe think about being able to gather info in a few different ways, or how to get the word out in a few different ways, just so you reach the broadest group of respondents. So maybe you can coordinate with apartment management, if maybe people get a flyer with then a web address or something, just to broadly get out the word, just to better improve the response you get. So I would just think about how to get the word out as diversely as you can.
Yep, that's a great point, because there's equity in how you distribute surveys too. So, yeah, that's something that we actually talked about for an hour today. So I'm very aware of it, and it's a great comment.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you all.
Okay, item 4, review and approve agenda. A motion to approve our agenda.
A motion to approve the agenda as written.
Is there a second? All right, we have a second. It's Julia. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No opposed? Okay. So, 5, action items. 5A, North Fish Hatchery Road Hub Final Design with Wade Thompson here. And Scott, do you have anything to remark before
What
Wade
is,
begins?
certainly, I did want to take the public opportunity to thank Wade for all of his work in this project, and certainly as you review through the PowerPoint that he put together, you're going to see the leadership and the professionalism and those kinds of things in the presentation. I would, in the supplemental information that I put on, which was sent out late today, and I placed on the computers, is, with the help of our finance director, Misty Blazing, a big thing is funding and those kinds of things, and she has a great handle on the park dedication fund, so I know that's another important piece in our discussion, so I certainly wanted to thank Misty and the finance department, and certainly recognize and thank Wade for all of his work before we get going.
Appreciate it, Scott. Checks in the mail. But yeah, again, thanks Parks Commission for having me. Just want to continue the discussion on the hub. I'm not going to go through the presentation again. We went through that last week or last month. I think the commission has a real good sense of all the moving parts of the hub. I would like to continue the discussion today on, kind of the ultimate recommendation from the Park Commission as to what you want to see in that final design. And, I think we do have a little bit more time. If we don't come to a consensus tonight, we have kind of revamped our process a little bit. We're probably going to slow down and take a few more weeks here. So the gist of it is you will be seeing this in terms of some options via a referral that would come to you next month. So we're putting together a resolution for council with basically 3 or 4 options. They would kick that back to Park Commission and H&I Committee. You guys would make a formal recommendation based on that resolution, and then that would go back to the council for decision in the first meeting in April. So we're again slowing down. We're taking a few more weeks to get this thing ironed out, but we think that's a prudent approach. There's a few reasons we're doing that, and we can get into those if you want. But again, tonight, I think the more discussion we can have on this, the better. And then come the April meeting, hopefully we'll have a nice quick action and get a recommendation to council. So with that, before we get into some of the details, any questions on, I guess, goals for tonight or process from here on out? And Scott, help me out if people are
Well,
wanting to talk.
in Wade, are we looking for a general consensus from the Park Commission on which option they would consider?
I guess I'll defer to you on that, Scott. Again, it will be coming back via a formal referral. In April. I think if the commission wants to take an action tonight, setting the stage for April, I think that's fine. If they want to, not take an action tonight and do so in April, I think that's fine as well. I guess the thought would be if they do take action tonight, that would mirror the action in April. I guess that would be the thought.
I have a question on that point.
Go ahead.
Okay, on page 16 in our packet, it notes in there the schedule. Today we're gathering feedback, and then it says March 3 Park Commission, so here we are. It says March 8, that would be next Tuesday, council meeting, final design resolution referral. That would be the council referring it out. Then it says March 22, council meeting, final design resolution approval. That doesn't sound right because the council refers things out and they come back 30 days later, not
Right.
the very
So
next meeting.
as I just said, we're slowing down. So this literally came about in the past couple of days.
So that's changed?
Exactly. So what
Okay.
I'm proposing now is, again, discussion tonight, but resolution to council on March 22nd, which is a meeting later than originally planned. And then it would get kicked back to this commission for your April meeting. And then a decision would go back to council, the first meeting in April, again, a meeting later, and then they would make a decision in April. So we're basically slowing things down by a couple of weeks.
So
yeah, that's
Referral out is March 22? That's the revised? Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Yep.
Please go ahead.
I have a question, Scott. You sent this afternoon another email with some of the options and cost. So we're going to discuss that tonight too.
Oh, Scott, sorry, Scott, did you have
No,
something to say?
go ahead, Wade, go ahead.
Yeah, there's two things that we can go through tonight. The first is the spreadsheet in front of you. And again, that's a little bit outdated. But what this will allow for is if we want to plug in different numbers to see, you know, what those cost scenarios look like, we can kind of play with that tonight, and you guys can get a sense of what those different options look like in terms of cost. I guess to that other point, the information you just received today has some very specific options in it. So we can, you know, those are more set in stone, I guess you could say. I do want to point out there's a fourth option. I think it's an option D that kind of allows for something new. So if the commission doesn't like any of those A, B, or C options, you know, certainly you can come up with a D option. That's maybe some combination of A, B, and C. And if I, just to kind of rehash where we've been, if memory serves, at the last meeting, there was an action item that kind of directed staff to basically, you know, use phase 2 monies if need be to cover additional phase 1 costs. There was also direction to phase the project, meaning this first year doing everything except the pump track and the outdoor covered structure. So that was my recollection of kind of direction. I think there was some uncertainty on the outdoor structure, whether it's covered, whether it has an ice rink. So I think that was a thing to be discussed today. And then the other thing I think there was uncertainty on was the potential cost reductions for the building. So I think, again, and those are things that we were going to talk about today. So with that all in mind, again, I think the goal is to really, you know, to Julia's point, we can look through some of those options. And then at the end of the discussion, if you want to propose an option, you know, I can put that together, and that would be sent to the council as part of the resolution.
Wade, I have a question. When will we see a revised plan as it relates to the phasing and the potential changes we've discussed for the actual building and the site itself?
So you mean like construction documents? Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah.
Yeah. So on March 20th or April, let's see here, what is it? April 12th, the council will direct staff what option they want in terms of phase 1 final design. So at that point, we will have direction. We will then let our consultants know what the direction is, and then they will proceed with preparing the construction documents. We'll put those out to bid, you know, whenever they get those ready. It'll take them a while, maybe a month and a half, you know, month. But we'll get those out, we'll get bids, and then we'll work with, you know, the appropriate city bodies to select a bid, to get that contract approved. And then, you know, we'll break ground. So I would say those documents will be ready, excuse me, sometime, you know, late May, potentially.
Thank you.
And maybe what I'll do quickly too is just run through those options, and then people will kind of have all the information at their disposal, and then we can, you know, talk in more detail. So I just, again, to Scott's point, I want to thank the finance department. They were really helpful in helping us figure out, you know, what we have available. I think that was kind of kind of the elephant in the room. We didn't quite know. We knew we had money, but we didn't quite know how much, and we didn't know, you know, what that meant for borrowing potentially. So as it stands now, and this is making some assumptions about impending developments, Traceway North, you know, with making assumptions about that money coming in for Parkland dedication. But basically, as of now, we've got essentially $3.4 million in our Parkland dedication fund that is eligible to spend on this project. We can talk more about what that means too. but I think that's a pretty good chunk of money. And I want to be clear, we're not depleting the Parkland Dedication Fund. There'll be money left in there, and Scott can certainly speak to that. But that's, per our finance, that's what is available to spend on this project at this point in time. So as it relates to option A, which again is kind of the full boat, everything we've planned for, which means outdoor structure with cover and with ice rink. We're talking a cost of approximately $5.5 million. And you basically see up top here, we've got that cost. We've got our funding sources identified, basically 3 sources: the Parkland Dedication Fund, grants and partner support, and then the idea of borrowing. So you can see how that breaks out. And then the third piece of each option is we've included every component that would be part of that option. So again, you see, everything is in this option A. And I just want to be clear, we don't want to shut the door on any options that this body might want to talk about. What we were trying to do was maintain a reasonable number of options for people to think about. And again, there can be modifications to these options that would create a fourth option. But this is the first option. I would call it the high option. It's the most expensive, and we're also getting the most in it. So the second option, option B, I guess I would call the middle in terms of cost. 4.2 million essentially. And for this, we are proposing a partially covered hard court. So you're not going to get that full cover, but what a partial cover could allow for is community events, whether it's movie nights, concerts, almost like a little amphitheater type element to that covered hard court. And then with this one, we would also not have an ice rink, so we'd lose some of that winter use at the site. But obviously with that, your cost goes down about 1.4 million. And then again, you see the various sources in which money could come from. Again, our park amount stays the same, our partner support stays the same, and we borrow less. So that's kind of how that option B breaks out. Option C, I would call the low option. We're losing a lot with this, but we're also staying much closer to budget. And what I would kind of point out with this one is we're basically not having any covered for our hard court. It's just a basketball, pickleball court like you'd see at any other, city park. No ice rink, no winter feature. We're losing the pump track. There would not be a pump track with this option. And we are incorporating essentially all of the building cost reductions that we discussed last time, with the exception of 2 that were just kind of non-starters from a staff perspective. And we can talk about what those are. And again, you see how that lays out in our funding sources. Here, we actually don't even use all the Parkland dedication available to us. We only use 2.9. We wouldn't get any partner support because right now the partner support is for the pump track and a potential grant opportunity for the pump track. So if we don't do that money goes away. And then I guess the other important point here is we don't borrow. This wouldn't require any borrowing. So again, you see kind of how that lays out with all the different components, all the different costs. And then again, the fourth option, which again is an option. This is where this body or the council can take elements of A, B, and C and come up with a D. And I kind of left this, I filled in some of the blanks here, but some of these were unknowns based on what that option D could potentially look like. Again, so with that, I think you guys are, kind of up to speed in terms of process and options. So with that, certainly can start the discussion or take any questions or comments the group might have.
And maybe if I might, Wade, just call the attention to attachment E, where we began to put together operating budget for the building itself. So that needs to be factored in also.
Yeah, and I do want to point out, none of the options eliminate the building. The building is proposed to be included in all 3 of the options. So.
Okay, Julia.
Okay, so thank you, Wade, for the presentation of the options. I think we have a better idea, but, regarding the attachment E, I think where we are missing a very important part here is the income or the future or the estimate future revenue, because we are going to rent the shelter. So we need to add that to this, and I would like to see that added before you go to council or refer to committees, okay? We need to calculate, to make an estimation, what is going to be the future stream of revenue for renting the shelter, okay? So we can do some basic calculation, but we need to have something there. Regarding option C, the idea of this one to be a community park is we need to provide unique features, okay, to the park to attract people from all over the city to come here. If we are removing the most important piece of this, that is the wheel track, what do we have? We have we are removing that uniqueness of this park. So I am totally against to have this option C, because the wheel track is a very important component of this park. I am okay with the ice rink or no ice rink. I can compromise with that, okay? But the other important thing is for me, is to have this is what in option D, I think is a better understanding when the hard court area, you have option there with the covered hard court with ice rink, the covered hard court without the ice rink, then partially covered, or, that one is a better, where we can, we can play with this, because otherwise in option A, no, option A is the whole thing. Option B, you mentioned partially covered hard court with no ice rink. But then you don't provide the option, or another option, they say that we want to have the covered court without the ice rink. You know what I mean? So, so I already know what I would like to see in this park, so I will ask my fellow commissioner to speak up, and then I'm gonna give my final opinion, but I think we need to think about that this is a community park. So, and the other thing is, I want to mention something, there are $3.4 million in park dedication fee. Even if we need to go to the highest, option, the borrowing money is gonna be $1.8 million that in an area where we haven't invested in 40 years, in an area where we need to have a park, in an area where we are attracting more development, more units, and we need a recreational, so we need to think about all of that. So that's it.
Just one quick point to follow up on Julia's points. So when staff was planning this project for this park, there was 3 features that we planned for the community that we thought were community park features. That would be the pump track, the outdoor structure. Even if it doesn't have an ice rink, we still feel like the covered outdoor structure is a community feature. And the third piece would be the building. We think there's things in the building that will draw the broader community there. So again, those are the three pieces. So I just want to be clear, even if, again, from a staff perspective, I hope we don't lose the pump track and the outdoor covered structure. But if we do, the building is still a community feature, and therefore, in staff's opinion, this would still be, check the box of a community park. So,
Patrick?
I have a few questions here. First, somewhere in the online presentation here, it said no first tee support anymore. Could you explain that?
yeah. So again, this thing has been years in the making. When we initially had the concept in mind, we were working really closely with First Tee and their former executive director. They, as you guys probably know, First Tee does programming at our golf course up there.
Right.
And they were, under their former executive director, they were looking for a new home. They're currently at Buy Tents over off the Beltline. So we said, hey, we're planning this hub phase 2 building, south side of Traceway Drive. And they said, hey, could we potentially be a planning partner and maybe have our headquarters in that building? So we started the concept planning with that in mind. We created square footage for them to have their headquarters there. That executive director left, a new one came on. There was a change in priorities. They kind of, went looking in different directions for their headquarters, and I don't think they've really moved from Vitens, but they just, the partnership kind of ended. So I believe they're still programming at the golf course, but they're just not a partner in terms of, being a tenant in a building or providing money to, towards a capital campaign. So that's kind of what that means.
Okay, so what you're saying, there was a possibility they were going to partner, but they're out of it now because they have other interests, so they're discounted. Okay, next thing I want to ask about is the ice rink. Every time I see a picture of the ice rink here, such as on page 27 online, it shows the ice rink like this picture with snow on the ground in winter. Now, tell me if I am understanding this right. Isn't the ice rink idea proposal, which is $700,000, the idea of refrigeration coils under the cement, so you turn on the pumps and everything and you can refrigerate the floor and people can get out in the middle of summer and ice skate on this hard court surface, flood it with water, freeze it all year? I mean, not every day, but once in a while turn it on? Is that the idea, or is it a winter thing?
Yeah, Scott, feel free to chime
Yeah,
in, but I think the vision is probably for a seasonal ice rink. I mean, I think we'd want that hard court area to function as a hard court in the spring, summer, and fall, meaning, social gatherings and basketball, pickleball, that kind of stuff. I don't think we'd want to put
No.
ice in August or
Well, I
anything
mean,
like that.
is it refrigeration coils or not? In the cement.
Yes, it would be.
It would?
That is an option, yeah.
But that's in the winter. Why do you need that in the winter? You flood it, it's cold out, it freezes.
Well, and you're familiar with our, what do I
McKee
want
and
to say,
Hugo
our
Jamestown?
temperatures and things like that. It is,
Yeah, they're
It-
outside, it freezes.
right, but we would be able to regulate it more and be able to get ice sooner and keep it longer, just because of the climate that we have currently in Wisconsin. So by doing that, then you're able to, come October, have ice and have it, we'd still have ice now, so.
But, right, but that's for $700,000 to have a little bit longer season of ice skating in the winter.
Well, it's
That's
definitely,
the idea here?
yeah, it's definitely not 12 months of the year.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I mean, with refrigeration coils, just like, I don't know if there still
That's
is,
just
but
to
on Forward
maintain it.
Drive, there was an indoor one.
Yeah, that's just to maintain it over the cold season temperature fluctuation is what that would be for. Heidi has a question.
There was something else.
Okay, go ahead, and then Heidi has a question.
What I am leaning towards is a lot of what I think Julia just said. 700,000, I'd drop the equipment that freezes the floor, but I am presuming that in order to have the intended, as in the picture there, ice skating rink on the hard court surface, there would be something of shallow edges that would hold the water. So in the winter season, you flood it, you let the winter freeze the ice, and people can skate on it. If it melts, okay, ice skating is over, without all of that refrigeration equipment. By comparison, these are other systems, but I've just seen this happen lately here. The splash pad had a lot of water pipe breakage underneath that needed a lot of repairs. Even the library right over there with its geothermal, lots of problems. The Public Works just reported all 8 of their pumps are failing and the whole mechanical has to be replaced. So refrigeration equipment for $700,000 to freeze the floor doesn't seem practical. In the winter, flood it, let the winter freeze it, that would be fine. The other part, for my comments anyway, I think that, yeah, A is too much only because of the ice skating rink. B sounds good, but I would also like the fully covered hard court roof over it, not partial covered. C is too little. So that's what I'm going for, is I don't see the benefit of $700,000 for the ice skating refrigeration equipment.
Okay, thank you. And Heidi Reynolds?
Hi, so with leading off onto that $700,000 question, is that sort of a one-time investment, or would that be, would there be ongoing maintenance costs with that refrigeration equipment?
Certainly, there would be ongoing maintenance and operational dollars to maintain, but it would be a one-time investment for the improvements to have it.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think it would be a good thing to have. I tend to feel that if this is something that we're gonna do, and I'm not a huge advocate of spending a lot of money, as you guys well know, but I feel if we're going to be doing a big park, we should go big or not do it at all. Otherwise, it's just gonna be another park. And I think this design is wonderful. I think you guys did a really nice job on this, and it seems like it would be a really big draw, not just for the residents of Fitchburg, but I think you would draw folks from all over. And I think what we would bring in tax revenue just for area businesses and what, as Julia pointed out, what we could make in, other revenue, I feel like over the course of many years, it would more than pay for itself. So I guess if and when we vote, I definitely would think A would be the best bet. I think it's a wonderful design, and I'm all for it.
Thank you. Other comments?
I'll just comment to say that I'm kind of conflicted between Patrick and Heidi at $700,000. As someone who doesn't skate, well, can't skate, doesn't play hockey, and doesn't know anything about what maintaining an ice rink entails with or without refrigeration, I feel not very equipped to make a decision, but $700,000 seems like a lot of money. But, if it's something that makes this rink, a step above the rest and that much more usable, more maintainable, that much of a better destination, perhaps it's worth it. I don't know. I would guess that maybe this, if this was not a refrigerated ice rink, it was just, a seasonally set up one at the whims of nature, like our other ones, being under the roof might allow it to be a bit more consistent because it doesn't get the sun exposure. I don't know. That's just a guess. That may not be true, but it's just a thought I had. So yeah, I don't know what to say other than it's a very tough decision to make.
Yeah.
So,
Another, not to interrupt, but in regards to rentable sheets of ice, I don't know if you're aware, but to rent a sheet of ice for a couple hours is pretty expensive. So I think there would be return on investment if you would for that.
And that was something I was going to ask Scott, was that it's not just that open for free skating all the time. This is to also, at certain times, have it be rented. And I have no business on skates anymore. I used to enjoy it quite a bit. But it's described as like 3-on-3 hockey. So I'm presuming there'd be times for free skate and some where it's more rented for.
Yeah, and there's broom ball, people that play broom ball without any skates and broom ball leagues, and there really is a lot of use that could potentially be happen with that kind of an amenity.
Yeah. And the other thought I had, and Wade or Scott, or if there's something that doesn't make sense here, is that, okay, first of all, the council decides, right? We can say what we like, and then they'll make that decision. If there ended up being no cover, an uncovered surface, whether it had ice or no ice, that's now a different equation. If it's not a covered hard surface with ice, now your ice isn't holding up because it's got sun exposure. If it's no cover or a partial cover, no ice feature, then you might actually be having an advantage to not having that hard court covered, leaving it uncovered, because then you start to take advantage of more early spring and late fall sun, and the court is warmer for playing basketball on, or pickleball and those other things. Covered with just that hard surface underneath, it's actually, in a way, might be cooler for longer. It's a thought. I mean, you can make the opposite argument that all summer long it's cooler for play during the hottest months. So there's an advantage to having that full roof, and there's some advantages to not having it, is my viewpoint.
Yep, yep, totally valid. You know, again, I think what the covering offers you is, probably social gathering opportunities,
Right.
again, movie nights, concerts, farmers markets. And certainly you can have those things open air, but there's just elements of permanence, of appearance, of functionality that a roof, whether it's partial or full, offers that, you know, a hard court without a partial or full roof just doesn't offer. And I want to be clear too, this partial roof was kind of a last minute addition. I mean, we never really talked about it until recently when budgets came in the way they did. So, you know, I don't know, I think at a base level, it makes sense, you know, just in terms of, again, kind of creating a little event space, but, yeah, there's certainly drawbacks and advantages to all these options, so.
Right. Kate, did you have comments?
I just had an additional question on the ice rink. I guess I'm curious how you guys do plan to operate this ice rink in the future. Is it going to be open and available for public skating unless it has been rented? Or do you plan to have an attendant on site at all times that will be governing who is using it, and that there will be a paid rental fee to use it? And I would at least like to see, I think, you have an annual operating budget, costs provided for the main building, but I would like to see something, at least a little bit of information for the ice rink operation, because they do take daily maintenance, if not several times daily, and there is equipment that is needed to maintain the ice itself. And are you guys planning to rent skates, or would this be something where people have to bring their own?
Scott, do you want to kick that off?
Well, you know, certainly we would have skates available for rent, and people could bring their own. But I would envision this similar to the park shelter rentals, where there may be some times where people can rent the facility and then have exclusive use of it, but then there's other times that it's open. I could envision, you know, where there just could be free skating, where there wouldn't be attendance, and so there's a lot of combinations of all of those, to be honest with you. But I think certainly another component is the annual maintenance of a refrigerated ice rink that we need to make sure everybody is aware of. Just as we felt that it's important that people understand that the operating budget of a shelter that we're looking at is, you know, there's some expenses there.
And Scott, I guess to that point, you know, probably the next couple of weeks, we should flesh out that as well.
And again, I think that's the benefit of us coming back a couple times. Things kind of evolve and questions are asked, and I would suspect we're going to have those. So we certainly appreciate the questions here so that we can get those answers.
Julia, you have a
question. So, Wade, in a Schedule E, when you mention item number 5, year 1 startup equipment, floor machine. What is that floor machine? What is that? Is it for the ice rink?
No, attachment E is I sat down. I had a conversation with our building maintenance supervisor, and then we worked out, these would all be additional. You know, we're figuring it would be 4 hours a day for cleaning. Utilities are basically, you know, power, electricity, and those kinds of things, and he kind of gave us an estimate. The cleaning supplies are an annual, the miscellaneous floor waxing and repairs, that's.
the question there is floor waxing for the building, not anything to do with the ice.
These are just Hub Phase 1 shelter building annual operating.
Okay.
But you mentioned there is a floor machine. What is that?
Well, that's a floor scrubber, which would be a one-time purchase.
Okay. Can you put the name of that in parentheses? Because I was looking like it was something from the ice rink.
So floor.
Yeah, well, we can clarify some of these things, Scott, with Kevin, right? Just what they mean.
I think the other thing that you need to add here, in the case that, you know, we are for option with the ice rink, and if we are gonna rent a skate, we need to have an inventory, how much is gonna be the startup inventory cost for a skate, I don't know. You know, if we are gonna do this in a more granular way.
And then, kind of just to clarify, which I think we've already mentioned, yeah, also including what we might expect to see for rental fees for the ice, for the skates, for the shelter itself, which we can probably use some other parks as an example, just so we can get a general idea of what we might have for money coming in. Could be easier for us to justify some of the bigger expenses.
Go ahead, Katie.
I just have one quick comment to members who may not be aware. There is a refrigerated ice rink, very similar to this, that is rentable in Monona, if somebody wants to go visit one in person. It's off Broadway.
What do they get for an hour of sheet time?
I believe it's $5 per person for an hour if you are a City of Monona resident, plus skate fees.
But if a hockey team or somebody comes in to rent
They
it,
don't allow anything but
Just
just
individuals.
skating. I think it causes too much damage to the ice.
Go ahead, please.
Is a portable ice rink or is permanent?
It is a refrigerated unit.
Okay.
It is very similar to this one.
Okay.
It's just off Broadway. It's in a new park. It's been in operation for 3 years.
Okay. Maybe you need to check also, Scott, with the parks department there, how much it costs to maintain that annually. And
What about Elver Park? Would this be comparable?
no, that's a pond, as I understand, right?
No, Elver Park has an outdoor in winter.
Yeah,
So
it's
does,
a, it's a
Elver
pond.
and Garner, west side of Madison, both have outdoor ones they set up.
Those are ponds, though, aren't they?
No. No, well, I mean, it's just basically the same as what McKee has, is a field that they flood,
Right, yeah, that's different
plug the
than,
drain and flood it.
that's different than a refrigerated sheet of ice.
I think to Katie's point, I think the nearest example comparable would be Monona. And then again, this would be like that, but would also have a potentially a roof covering, so.
Okay, and Sarah Schrader, I see you there.
Thanks. I was just going to give my initial reaction that I do like the idea of option B, where the ice rink, with our limited months of availability, it just feels like potentially that we could use the space for other activities, that it just seems like it'd be a very expensive cost per day if we kind of looked at the days that it would be available. And option C, I don't like the idea of losing the bike facilities. So it is that middle option that appeals to me.
Thank you. Any other comments? So Scott, then at this point, you're noting all, and Wade are noting our comments. As far as voting, it seems like, to me, we're not ready for that per se, unless someone else thinks we should go ahead and vote? I'm seeing, go ahead.
Not necessarily to vote, but I'm wondering if we might want to touch on some of the proposed cost savings for the building, whether or not how we feel about those.
Sure, okay.
And if I could just take a minute to show, so I have the spreadsheet up here, that's probably a good segue to Chris's point.
Okay,
But I just want to kind of show kind of a live look here. You know, if it sounds like there's an interest in option B and maybe some interest in option A. But as it relates, to option B, again, right now with the partial covered roof that bear with me here. So yeah, so right now on the screen in front of you, you're basically seeing the option B. Now, if folks are interested in let's call it option B1, with a full roof. Let's see what that looks like. So that's another 400 to 500,000, it gets you up almost 4.7. Again, just for some perspective. And then, yeah, to Chris's point, we've got essentially, let's call it 227,000 in potential building savings reductions. I do want to point out, I have excluded removing the sprinklers, and I've also excluded removing radiant in-floor heat. Sprinklers, I think we talked about last time, it was per the recommendation of our fire chief, and I'm not going to be the one to go against our fire chief in terms of proposing removing that. And then in talking with some of our public works folks, they were really adamant about radiant in-floor heat, keeping that. Wants to bring those two back in the discussion, and we can do that, but I didn't want to do that as staff. And if we add those back in, we can get another, let's see, say another 70,000. So we're up, 340, something like that, 330 for potential building saving reduction. So yeah, with that, certainly, back to Chris's point, we can talk more about those.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you, Sue. So my concern about removing some of the stuff, like the building area reduction, $54,000 is, it's not a big deal, you know what I mean? The site lighting, I would like to keep the site lighting, especially in that area, okay? So, and then the 20,000 playground element, benches, paved area, that one is part of the park, is you're removing the benches, you know what I mean? So,
yeah. Just a couple comments there. So the lighting, it's not the amount, it's the type. This isn't going to be, we're not going to compromise safety if we do these lighting saves. We talked to the consultant about it. It's simply, I think that the type, maybe we're just getting a better deal on some features. So I just want to be clear about that. And staff did already build that in as a reduction, and we can put that back if the commission wants. We felt really good about keeping that in as a reduction. And then the playground, again, I don't think we're losing anything. I mean, I think we might be losing one or two benches that I think we don't need anyways. We're gonna have a lot of seating areas. We're keeping the core of that unique playground feature intact. We're not reducing that. So in staff's minds, the lighting and the playground savings were things that were really, we felt good about. Again, if folks want to bring them back, we can certainly do that.
Can I answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I have another question. So in option B, when you mention partially covered hard court, what does it mean partially covered? Is it going to be half covered or a quarter covered? I want to know what it does mean.
Yeah. So we haven't yet designed for that. Again, that came in kind of last minute as a potential compromise. But I would say anywhere from, let's say, a quarter to, I don't think it'd be a full half, but just envision like an amphitheater type roof where you got enough room to get a band under there. You got enough room to get maybe a screen that would drop down for movie nights. So yeah, we don't have that designed yet, but I would say, Scott, chime in if you want, but I don't know, quarter of the area maybe.
And again, it would kind of be the bookend, if you would, so that would be to the farthest to the west, where we had that wall, the mural wall, but it would cantilever out so that we could have protection for performers and things. They'd still be, if someone's sitting in the audience, they still would be subject to rain and those kinds of things. So just a way to try to reduce is what the goal was there, without really losing the function, if you would, too much.
Particularly, I would like to see the whole thing covered, because this is the intention of this is what, I would like to do an attachment D where we can, provide another option where some people feel comfortable with partially covered and some other people feel like full cover without the ice rink, you know what I mean? This is how I can compromise. With the ice rink, I can compromise, because it wasn't in the initial design, and I know that it's a great feature, but it's gonna be very expensive and, a lot of maintenance and,
It seems to be the consensus.
it will be great to have it, but, it's, I don't know.
Patrick?
A question on the radiant floor heating, is that based on the geothermal system?
I don't know. Scott, do you know anything about that? It's not my
I
wheelhouse.
don't.
I was presuming it was, and I mean, from the numbers that I see on one of these pages here, radiant floor, in-floor heat seems to be 35,000, and the geothermal, I am assuming they go together, 52,000. That actually seems like a good feature there to have, if it is geothermal heating the floor.
And I
The only thing that I would say about geothermal is, based on the failures of the library system, if we bid that out, get a very long warranty on it, like lifetime warranty, because these systems keep breaking down for Fitchburg. Otherwise, I like the full cover over the hard court, and I think the refrigerated floor for the ice rink is just too much. Just flood the floor in winter and let it freeze, and like Chris says, the shade will keep it frozen. There's places outside right now that are shaded, and it's still frozen. So keep the sun off of it, and you'll get more length out of it.
And as I recall, last time, the consensus was that, safety items, which would be the sprinkler system, and then any kind of energy conservation is good. So the floor, the radiant heat and the geothermal was something that we wanted to continue with.
Clarify if the in-floor is based on geothermal, which I would like that. And it seems quite inexpensive there.
Yeah, my impression was you could remove one or the other, without effect. You didn't have to remove them both or keep them both, but, yeah,
Well,
we can look into it.
It depends if the in-floor heat is based on the geothermal, then you can't get rid of one and keep the other.
Right, I guess what I'm saying is our consultants provided these elements, and they never said they were, joined at the hip. So again, my impression would be we could remove one or the other, or both, or neither.
Any other questions?
I have a comment and a question. Comment, it's been weighing on me since 2 months ago or 1 month ago, whenever we first saw the plan. I think I made a comment about liking to see gender-neutral bathrooms in the plan. And I feel like I maybe gave the architects a get-out-of-jail-free card by acknowledging that it might be challenging. So I just want to remind you guys, to remind them as you're going through it, that that's not the case. Like, I would be very disappointed if we saw a plan that did not have gender-neutral bathrooms or a family, single-stall neutral option. Reason being, the whole point of this facility is we're trying to provide services to an underserved community. And if we do that and we ignore another underserved community, I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot a little bit. So just wanted to get that out there and make sure that that was hopefully clear for the design team when it comes to it. And then also a question, has anybody maybe looked into sponsorship opportunities for the ice? I know that might be a hard sell, but Sub-Zero seems to have their foot in the ice world. Maybe there's an opportunity for a Fitchburg business to get some goodwill. I don't know. It might be unlikely, but it's something we could look into.
Yeah, I guess to that point, Chris, that's a great point, and something I've been thinking about for months, actually. And we pitched the idea to various committees as we presented the concept, in terms of corporate sponsorships. To be honest, it's not something I've done before. It's not, I don't quite know how you start those conversations. But certainly, yeah, as I think we get nearer to the end here, Scott, maybe it makes sense for you and I to brainstorm on that and figure out, if we have existing city staff that could help us make some of those connections. Because, and even to the point of, if there's, I don't quite know how it would look, but I think it's worth a try here, so.
Zimmerman, he has a connection there.
And part of this, and again, I don't want to sound passive on this, but, Saris is a good example. I can't remember how they essentially found out about it and came to us, in terms of supporting the pump track. And, my hope is that the word continues to get out and folks, spread the word. And certainly we want to be proactive and knock on some doors, but, hopefully maybe some folks will come to us as well.
Other comments? I have a question that I apologize because I think you stated this up front in the past. This park will include security cameras, correct? Yeah, that's a given.
Yeah, we've been in discussions from the get-go with
Okay.
our PD, and they're even marking up a site plan to figure out lighting angles and
Okay,
camera
thanks.
elements. So those are all things that once we kind of get direction on, exact final design, we'll start hashing out those things in further detail.
All right, go ahead.
Wait, we need to, in the design, we need to allocate an area for the e-bicycles.
Yep. So I've been talking with Phil Groupie, who's our
Okay.
sustainability specialist. He staffs our bike committee, and folks may know we are exploring the potential for what's called the B-Cycle program. So it's like the shared bikes in Madison where you plug in a credit card and you can take a bike and ride around. And we are envisioning a pilot program in the city with strategic bike dock locations, and one of the sites would be the hub. So we're just trying to figure out, again, once we get our design figured out, we'll find a spot for that too.
Okay, so Scott, on the one hand, and Julia, that we want some direction or of a list of things we agree upon or majority agrees upon to talk about with council, but on the other hand, we don't have information about sort of the ice features that were brought up. So,
So
go ahead.
I think I'm comfortable with the feedback that we received. Wade, I think we've gotten
Does
a
that suffice?
lot of good information. And again, it's, you can't just do this in one meeting. So I think we've kind of moved it along, and those are some additional, which we appreciate, additional thoughts and information that we need to gather. So, and I think it was the right decision to slow it down, if you would,
Yeah.
and give it a couple more weeks, kind of thing.
Okay, and Heidi, I'm sorry, I didn't see you had a comment?
Just, I'm wondering maybe would people be comfortable sort of narrowing it down to options A and B? It seems like that's where everybody's sort of leaning.
And again, I think we're getting that from the park commission and their comments. So
Yeah,
I think we're.
right, to say, Heidi's right, to say that's kind of where we landed is fair, but it doesn't require a vote per se, because it's in the notes of our discussion? Okay.
Okay,
Thank you, though, for
thanks.
crystallizing that part of it for us. So then we're ready to move on, correct? 5B, small-scale ag park design, Terra Vesa request for proposal, and Wade and Scott. Do you have an intro, Scott?
Well, and this too has kind of evolved over time with questions and comments from the park commission. So I'm thinking we're at a final version, but if I could ask Wade to kind of go through it and maybe highlight the things that have been adjusted.
Yeah, yep, Scott's right on there. I think we heard some good feedback last time and tweaked the RFP accordingly. And I think hopefully we're at a point now where the commission has comfort with it and we can, get this thing out the door in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, just, I guess, three big changes. Bear with me here. So the first one, and I think Katie brought this up, just being more specific in terms of a deliverable. And we pretty much cut and pasted from our requested deliverable from our Stoner Prairie planning process. And this RFP is a little bit different because it's such a unique park. So, we're envisioning, well, we'll get to that, but I think, there could be some collaboration on the design process for multiple consultants with differing levels of experience. And I think obviously we want folks with kind of the small scale gardening planning experience, and then folks with more of the traditional planning and design construction level documents as well. So that's what this number one talks about, is just making sure we're getting all those elements that we'll be ready to roll with construction when it gets to that point. And then the second, and I didn't highlight this in red, but the second piece is, with that additional ask in terms of that, some of those formal planning and design documents, we are probably going to see bids come in higher. So we went from 12,000, which I think was focused more on just let's call it kind of the agricultural aspect of the park, to $20,000. And we think with 20,000, we'll get both that ag aspect as well as the construction design aspect as well. And then the third piece, and it kind of, stems from the first two pieces, is, again, this is a fairly unique park planning project. There's not a whole lot of ag parks in the region or the country. So we just want to make it clear that, we will accept what we'll call partial proposals. So if there's a group that's really just into the small scale ag and they don't know anything about construction, design, or planning, we don't want to keep them out the door. We want them to submit something. And then obviously if they submit a partial, we want to be clear what they're submitting their partial for. And then, and certainly folks can submit a full proposal covering everything. But, we imagine that might be consultants with sub-consultants. And then kind of what we say is we retain the right, if we get a partial proposal and we get maybe a full proposal or another partial, we reserve the right as a city to kind of put those proposals together. And the assumption would be if we do that those multiple firms would work together. And so we would essentially facilitate that partnership, and a condition of they're accepting the offer would be that they would have to work with their partnering firm. So that's, again, pretty much, the gist of it. Those are the big changes. Again, we feel like those hopefully address the stuff feedback we heard last time. And then I guess ultimately we would be looking for, I guess, an approval of this document, if not approval, direction on what we need to do to get it approved. And then again, next step would be to put it out for bid, hopefully sometime fairly soon. So.
Okay, Julia has a question.
Yes, Wade, my question is, one of my concerns is with this RFP is that we don't know, we are asking these people to say, design a park, okay? So, but what about how much is our budget for this park, okay? Because they can come with with a huge, high-end stuff, a lot of elements in the park, great, But then the budget is, I don't know, 1/10 of that we can cover. So this is my concern is, because when we did the hub, we have an idea how much it will be the cost. Then inflation and, and construction cost went up and, the plan went out. But this is my concern is, what do we want to see here? This is my question that I asked for day one since this one was introduced. How we are going to fund this park and how much we are willing to invest in this park.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts. I mean, if you think about, the hub's a good example, and I would actually kind of say that if you remember, when CETA gave us that 30 grand to do the concept, we didn't have any idea what it was going to cost, and we didn't have any money identified. So it's kind of like, you do the plan, and if people like the plan, then you figure out a way to fund it. So I think that's a good kind of comparable. But your point is well taken. I mean, our hope was to get as much detail we can in this deliverable in terms of management, and cost. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the planning, unless we've got X amount set aside right now for egg park implementation, there will be costs that will need to be addressed. Scott, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, and I would just, what we've done is we've kind of laid out on page 57, which is our concept design. So I think that is really going to steer the proposals on what are going to be the components that are included in the final design. So I think we do provide some parameters as to what type of facilities and amenities will be in the plan.
Any other questions or comments? Anything else to add, Wade?
Nope.
So we want to know if we can give this our blessing, and would do that in the form of a motion to, what's the wording, release the RFP as drafted from somebody? Is there a motion along those lines?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Okay. Sarah gets the motion and Julia
I
gets the
second.
second. Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then that passes. Thank you.
Thanks, Wade.
Thank you, Wade.
You're done for tonight.
Released from
For tonight, yeah.
custody, yes. Okay, 5C is Resolution R 3222, approving inclusive playground path work. Go ahead, Scott.
Yes, and this is our,
The resolution. So, can I do it?
Sure.
So I move approval of resolution R-32-22, approving inclusive playground path work.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And now we can discuss.
Now we will discuss. Scott will intro
thank you
discussion.
for your Robert's order there, Julia, that's appreciated. This is, we're continuing on with our inclusive playground project. We did bid out, it was called the path work, if you would, which is basically the concrete apron that would go around the port-in-place surfacing, along with there's a blacktop path that is going to connect on the north side to the splash pad, and then there's also going to be a blacktop path that's going to go south to connect to the existing path that we have. We did receive 2 proposals, and the low bid was, it was 40, what do I want to say here? The low bid was from South Central Contracting for $41,435. I will mention that it kind of ties in 2 projects. A portion of this project is for the installation of the drinking fountain, which is a separate CIP, so that's actually not included in the current funding for the inclusive playground. But in order to do this project, we do need to have, we're asking for $50,000 additional dollars for through a budget amendment. And if you look on the resolution on page 72, it kind of spells that out, and what that $50,000 will do will allow us to do the path work, the installation of the drinking fountain, but then it'll leave some additional dollars for some site amenities, benches, and those kinds of things. The last piece of the project is the fencing. that we need to do. From the advice of the Finance Department, we also included a budget amendment of $75,000 for the fencing, which will still need to design and bid and all of those kinds of things.
Go ahead, Julia.
Yes, regarding the fencing, okay? I had the opportunity to talk to the Amanda yesterday from Communication Innovation, and she worked with kids with, and when I mentioned the fencing, she said, wow, no. We don't fence other parks, okay? We don't fence other parks. I don't think that we need to fence this park. You know what I mean? I don't know why you want to fence this park, because this is something new. It was never in the design. But most of the kids that are going to be playing in that inclusive playground, they are going to be supervised because some of them, they have some physical discapacity or other ones that they are going to be supervised most of the time. And I don't think that they need to have a fence. We are going to send a very wrong message if we put a fence in this park.
Well, and I guess when we first designed it from communication, they were recommending a fence, so that's where the fence came from. So that's new information that I wasn't aware of. And at the end of the day, there's still a lot of work and things that would need to go into the fence. So the fence would need to be approved, and certainly I would want to go back to that. To our work group to see if they're, and what I'm hearing is that they would be okay without a fence. So it may be a case of, well, okay, we'll do an amendment to the resolution and not include that $75,000 for the fence.
Go ahead.
My personal opinion. I don't know what the other commissioner feel like. When I read that, it was very offensive to me, because if I have a kid with disability to go and play in inclusive playground to put a fence, I want to feel very, very bad.
The splash pad has the same type of split rail fence that goes around it, so I guess it certainly was a visual thing, but a functional. It did serve a functional use.
Patrick?
But then does a split rail fence cost $75,000?
Well, and again, the idea was that split rail from a staff perspective is hard to maintain and it's difficult. So the idea we were thinking would be to be more of a wrought iron fabricated fence that would be attached to the concrete apron around the inclusive playground. So that was.
Then that sounds like what Julia is objecting to.
I'm hearing this. I'm hearing the same thing. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have two questions then.
Yes, please.
One is, it mentions in the resolution there, $50,000 from Limestone Ridge Apartments. Where's that? Is that anywhere in the area there, or is that over at Quarry Ridge, or? Because the High Line is the one right on the southwest corner of Fish Hatchery and Traceway. I just don't know.
I don't know.
I think this one is the one that is building behind Target.
Okay. Way over on the west side somewhere.
And those that they're not giving parkland, so we're going to receive fee in lieu of parkland dedication along with park improvement fees.
Okay.
So this.
And in other words, I mean, it's not in the area of McKee Park, but McKee is a community park, so it can be used from anywhere in the area,
Right. And
or
that's-
anywher in the city for here. Okay,
Yeah.
my other question is, on the two bids right there, this is kind of amazing that they're only 700,000, right? No, $700 apart from each other out of 41,000?
We did a good job of putting together the specs.
Well, I'm wondering, I didn't see an engineer's estimate in here. Is there one?
There may have been an engineering estimate from R.A. Smith way back in the beginning.
I mean, even on these, blue pages in here, there's no engineer estimate. Then usually that's done first to see if the bids are within reasonable range.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, Patrick, you had another question? Oh, okay, Katie?
I just wanted to say that I am also personally not in favor of fencing in an inclusive playground. It is very uncommon for us to fence in playgrounds, and where you said that, yes, this is next to the splash pad, that has a split rail fence with large openings in it that people can move through. And the splash pad is also a recirculating splash pad that is considered a public pool, and public pools are required to have fencing. So there are very specific reasons that fencing was put in around that splash pad. And we kept it as open as we could.
Good information to have. Okay, so where do we stand then with this document created as it is? How do we manage this issue of fencing?
I don't know, we can recommend to remove
Correct.
the fence from here. So we are going to approve this resolution without the fencing.
With the amendment to.
The amendment, yeah,
The amendment to remove that whereas clause that included the fencing.
yeah. So, but I don't know if the rest of the commissioner are okay, so I don't know.
I'm not hearing any or seeing any objections. Everyone's made the case, a reasonable case to do just that.
Julia, would you include that in your original approval, that you move approval of resolution R3222 with the removal of the whereas clause that included the fencing?
So what we can do is, we need to amend that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I want to introduce an amendment to the resolution to remove the fencing.
I'll second.
Okay,
That was Katie?
yes. No, Heidi.
Heidi.
Oh, Heidi, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, question
okay.
on the discussion. What do we think of a continuation of the split rail fence as it is around the splash pad? You know, not a solid, whatever you said, iron something. But what if we match with the split rail fence, just because the splash pad has it?
Well, in that, you know,
We're not maybe putting a whereas, we're going to have a split rail fence, but we're just mostly taking out the 75,000 specifically
well, if we
for.
don't
for
have
a
the money, we
wrought
can't.
iron.
It's not about the money, it's about the visual, or what it is. I personally, I'm gonna oppose to any fencing of
Any
this.
fence.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was getting at.
Okay. So is our original motion just restated? Are we voting once, or are we voting on an amendment?
I need a second to my amendment.
Yep,
And
Ah,
Heidi
Heidi.
did,
Okay, so
okay.
now we need to vote the amendment, and then we need to vote the other one.
All right, we're going to vote on the amended motion, which removes the $75,000 whereas clause regarding fencing. Those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Wait, we're voting on the amendment to it?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
We're
Okay,
voting.
aye.
Aye, okay, so we're all aye there.
And then we need to vote on the,
Original resolution
Resolution.
as amended.
yeah, as amended.
Right.
Okay, so those in favor of the original resolution as amended, in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Very good.
Takes a village.
We did good on that one.
Okay.
Robert's rule.
Well, I've got some
Thank
great
you,
help,
Julia, for
great
that
help over
guidance.
here. Patrick and Julia keep me,
Yes,
I'm learning every time.
I thank her.
Okay, so we are then on to, I didn't skip anything, item 6, our discussion.
For
slash-
the capital improvement plan.
Yes, capital improvement
For
plan, 6A.
2023 through 2032. And what I need to do is I need to get our proposal, your proposal, to the finance director on April 6th. So we're not able to approve it in April, if you would. And what I did do is I included the 2022, 2031 CIP, which basically is all the different CIPs that we have. So the first one is McGaw Park, and you can see that we don't have anything. We're doing the, and maybe if I could, maybe just, how do you want to do this? Maybe I'll roll through each of them to see what I have, and then if you've got comments at the end, or individual ones, or what, how do you want to do it? I see
Favor of
Patrick's hands up.
one by one.
Okay, so McGaw, there isn't any I'm proposing that we keep it as written. Oh,
Discussion.
well, actually, I do want to include in there in 2023, I want to put $40,000 in there. There's 2 crossings that I'd like to improve that go across the access off of Lacey Road. It becomes kind of like a speed area, and we've got the people in the crossings, and then there's 2 crossings there, and I would like to do some improvements to those crossings, which make them a little bit more visible, but also, in theory, provide a speed bump, if you would, to try and reduce the speed along that access road at McGaw.
Okay. And Patrick?
Yes, McGaw Park. As I have done annually, I would like to remove the new volleyball post, $10,000, and I've always been told, wait, don't worry about it, it's in the future. Now it's coming up. So again, the volleyball posts do not need to be removed. They are straight up between the 2 sides of the play. They lean inwards, but that doesn't affect the play anymore. That's what the adjustable ropes are for. And I will also point out that in McKee Park volleyball courts, the posts lean inwards all the same, and there's no proposal from McKee to replace them in McKee. So this is a waste of money, and it's also on property tax levy. So it's about time to remove this here. I would much rather see the money used to buy some new nets, because there are 4 volleyball courts in McGaw Park. 2 of them have turned into grass courts. They have no nets on them. Some people like grass courts. And I'd rather see, a couple of new nets put up there, because these volleyball courts have been very popular the last 2 years. There's groups that have come and played every night, Monday through Friday, for the last 2 years through the whole summer season. And the posts are working just fine for them. Last I looked at the McKee volleyball courts, those nets looked like they were kind of falling apart. Ropes were broken on them. So again, maybe a couple of new nets there, but spend the money on the nets and don't tear out posts that are working perfectly good. I would like this 10,000 removed.
Scott, do you have any other background about that would be helpful? Otherwise, I don't see a reason to disagree with what Patrick is saying. I don't play volleyball. I've not looked at them.
We can remove it if you'd like. Patrick is pretty.
Finally, yes.
And I would
Bring
say,
it up
well,
every year.
that's a 2024, so let's wait till next year.
No. Now.
Well,
Finish it, kill it. I brought this up every year, and you keep saying that. Wait till next year.
Yeah. And Sarah, think of the time it'll save next year.
Yeah.
Sarah? Sarah?
Patrick, I agree. We have this conversation every year where I agree with you that I've looked at the volleyball posts and I don't think that they look in that bad of condition and that they are just leaning. But when we've discussed this in the past, we have talked about how it is easier to have things in rather than remove them. And since this is still 2024, I'll give the same opinion I've given every other year, where it's just nice to have it in, be able to assess the volleyball posts at that time and see if they need to be taken out. It's still 2 years away that I do feel as though it's not doing any harm as we're planning for it. We're having productive conversations to make sure that they're still in good shape. So I guess I would say leave it in, and we'll have an anniversary party next year when we talk about it again.
Also, Sarah, excellent points that you make, and Katie, I see, has her.
I would ask Patrick if this is something where if I don't know if it can be amended to volleyball improvements and leave it in, as opposed to specifically volleyball posts.
Well, I absolutely do not, okay?
Go ahead,
I
yeah.
absolutely do not want the volleyball posts removed, because they're perfectly fine. They're
Okay,
straight up between
does
the
it-
2 player sides.
I've
Waste
heard,
of money.
I've
Take it
agreed
out,
with
kill it, or
everyone.
You're going to hear from me again next year. McKee has the same thing, and there's no proposal to remove those posts. So why?
Now,
You really want to hear from me again next year?
I want to say everyone is being very persuasive, especially Katie. So, it can go however people feel. I mean, it's not hurting us this year, as Sarah's pointing out. If it changes it to improvements, does that help us at all?
Yes. Can I give you?
Yes.
I'm gonna give you my opinion as an elder that we fight with CIP funds. You know, I think we need to keep it here because you never know where we can use the money for other things. Because when you take it out, and if something happen, it's gonna be more difficult to put it in. You know what I mean? So I agree with Sarah.
Okay, and Patrick, one last round here.
Okay, this is on property tax levy.
But in
This is a
2024,
waste
correct?
of money. I've taken those posts and tried to shake them. They're immovable. They're not moving. They're not leaning in anymore. They're not leaning over. They are as stable right now as they've always been. They do not need to be removed. I want the 10,000 removed and just kill this. I mean, I don't know where you get your money for buying new nets, but they don't cost $10,000.
All right. So we've all said our piece.
Well, maybe Patrick would, not to interrupt, but
Go ahead.
Patrick makes a motion to remove the,
I make a motion to remove the $10,000 for removing these posts or replacing these posts.
Do we have a second? Without a second,
Next year,
we'll be leaving it in for next year.
okay, can I keep going
Please,
now?
keep it rolling.
So then, McKee Farms Park, well, in 2023, we have again the tennis court, the tennis court repair along with the fencing. We're hoping that potentially that can be done with ARPA. So we didn't add anything to that. So that's going to remain the same.
Yeah, just 1 second. Go ahead, Julia.
I think the mayor include
Yep,
is part of the
ARPA.
ARPA, so
Yep.
our the TID money. One of the other one, because this one is the tennis court is part of the thing that we couldn't we didn't approve during budget because of we were short of money, but we say that it's gonna be paid with TID closure money of ARPA. Yeah, so that is included.
So we're not changing the CIP at all.
We are changing the funding. It's not gonna be tax levy.
Okay,
Okay.
very good. Go ahead, Patrick. You're
Yeah, Patrick.
McKee.
This ARPA was my question as well, because this doesn't account for anything in any of these CIPs, but I believe it's in progress for amendments for how to spend the ARPA money, which does potentially change some of the funding for some of these things and may make it more appealable and reasonable and acceptable if we know that some things are going against the ARPA funding. So we're a little bit in the dark and at a loss for what's covered by that, and it could make a difference. And my second point, you won't like hearing this, but I'm going to ask the backwards question of why aren't the volleyball posts in McKee being replaced? I am not at all in the least bit in favor of doing that, but it's just so much different that it just stands out.
All right. And Julia had a comment as well.
Yeah, I want to say the tennis court, they are not in the dark. They're going to be funded with ARPA or with TID closure. It's in the mayor budget, in the mayor proposal, and none of the alder put anything to remove it. So it's going to pass.
That's the tennis court
Yeah.
fencing, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did notice that.
So I'll just change the funding source on that one, I think. Then Moraine Edge Park land acquisition. Nothing really changing with that one.
Yeah, who knows when.
Reoccurring
Oh,
part,
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's see, wait a minute. Oh, next one, go ahead.
okay. Reoccurring park system improvements.
That's
We-
my question.
We're not making any changes to that.
Yeah.
Okay, Patrick has,
I have a question now. I believe that Julia is putting in an amendment to add the drinking fountain in Belmar Hills. what I asked at a previous meeting. But I noticed right here that this says in here, now it doesn't say that it's being added back in, that's part of the ARPA funding and everything. The drinking fountain, water fountain at Belmar is priced at $24,000. And on the very, let's see, well, the next page, but it's still the same category. There's previously funded projects that are not yet completed but still planned. Oak Meadow Drinking Fountain, $15,000. Why the difference in price?
The, where are you seeing the Belmar Hills thing?
Well, it's not, it's listed in here as 2019 to 28
Yeah.
was adding the drinking fountain at Belmar Hills, and then 2019 it was removed, and that was a $24,000
Yeah,
rescinded from
Yeah,
that.
the Oak Meadow one is, I think it's closer to the water service. Belmar Hills, there'll be a longer run from the water service to get to the
Okay.
drinking fountain.
Yeah, that's my question, is there was like a $9,000 difference
Yeah.
in drinking fountains, so there had to be something.
Yeah, it's getting the water to the location.
Julia has a question.
Scott, why the Tower Hill shelter replacement is not here?
It's a next, it's.
Oh, okay, sorry.
We'll get to it, Julia.
Oh, I do have another question.
What, okay, go ahead.
On the next page, which is page 80 of our packet, I believe, it's in this same category here. The very top line says, Shapey, that'd be Perry J. Shapey Park, playground retrofit, $40,000. What retrofit? What is that about?
Well, it's basically to replace it. We would just replace it.
Oh, replacement.
Yeah.
Oh,
replace it,
okay.
yeah. Okay. Then the tennis court improvements revised. We're not proposing any changes from what that one is. And then large park shelter renovate replace. That's where they're, and you can kind of see up in the description, the Tower Hill shelter has been in the works for a long time. And what this CIP does is it begins to start to put dollars in this CIP account in 2024. So it'd take 1, 2, 3, probably in 2027 would be the year that we'd be able to do some renovations. But Julie, as indicated, she did include in her ARPA proposal to get the Tower Hill shelter updated, so we appreciate that.
You need to support my amendment. Send emails to the council and the mayor.
And Patrick?
The first line here says, about park shelters, it says the city has 6 such park shelters that are on a 30-year replacement cycle, meaning one would be replaced every 5 years. I have a strong objection to this idea of when a park shelter gets 30 years old, you tear it down and replace it with whatever the cost. I think it's run at about $250,000. Yeah, down below it says $250,000 per shelter. I'm thinking, you don't tear a house down and replace it every 30 years.
It says shelter renovation. 2018 to 2027 change Tower Hill shelter renovation. We're not going to raise it. We couldn't build a new shelter for $250,000.
Well, yeah, I mean,
these are after a certain
says,
amount of.
in the next sentence, it says, however, projects will be budgeted as replacement is needed. So this sounds like a replacement. And you,
Yeah, and earlier, the description, the first couple sentences, it uses the word replaced. And
Yeah.
Are you looking for consistency to say renovate in every part of this description of 6264?
I certainly don't like the idea of what it appears to be here of tearing them down every 30 years and replacing them. The houses in my neighborhood are 50 to 60 years old, including mine, and nobody is looking to tear down their house.
Yeah, no, these are right, not tearing down, these are renovation. It says large park shelters renovate / replace.
So it's.
And really what we way back when, we had a lot of dollar amounts. So then the idea is, well, you know what, that's a lot of money. Let's put $50,000 a year in it, so then after a certain amount of time, we'd be able to do the renovation. But that keeps going on and on and on and on and on, so we just really never been able to do that.
Okay, I want to strongly emphasize that I would be against replacement if that is the idea and is sort of vague here between these terms. I'll also point out for our personal property owner benefit that this 50,000 per year and then 51, 52, 53,000 as we go on is on property tax levy again. Because it's a replacement, it's, well, it says
Yeah, it's
replacement, so I mean,
yeah.
replacement, you have to use other than park dedication money.
If it's, right, this is maintenance is really what it is. It's renovation and maintenance. It's not a new facility.
Okay, then I would ask if you clarify that in the wording.
And then, are you good?
Yep.
Are we good? Then recreational circuit, Dunn's Marsh. That's still a couple years out there. Neighborhood Phase 2 revised. So that, well, that's kind of the partner to Phase 1.
No, this one is part 2.
Yep, so it's a partner, so the
Yeah, yeah.
south side, we're, in 2023, we were scheduled to spend some dollars and then build the hub Phase 2 in 2024. So we'll just kind of keep that and let the council decide what they want to do. And and then actually the teen center, which is really under your purview, you know, that's looking to get underway in 2024. So that's still, and as they're actually doing some outreach and some of that kind of preliminary work this year, and then it looks like it also in 2023.
Okay. Can I ask a question?
Yes, go.
I think, Scott, we need to add in this CIP the town of Madison Park. There is one that is coming to us,
Northridge.
and we need to include, I know that there is some park dedication fee from the artisan village, like
Artisan,
yeah, $400,000. So I think we should put it in the,
Okay.
if we need to do any renovation and we have that money allocated already for
Well,
that park,
that's-
but it's in the radar. I don't know, there are more parks in town of Madison.
No, is everyone following what Julia is referring to? The town of Madison, we've got a new park coming in, and there's actually Artesian Village, which is in the area, and we've got about $450,000 in fee in lieu of parkland dedication, not going to Hub 1, but in theory is going to go to the renovation of the facilities that we have at that park.
Okay, my question to you, have you been there? Have you
Oh, yeah.
have
Oh, yeah.
do an inventory? Okay,
Yep,
to see the condition of the park and, okay.
yep.
I think you need to include that in the CIP.
I think that's
Okay.
good, yep.
And also, my question to you or to all of us is, because this is our infrastructure that is coming, has been in the CIP for many years, and some of them the replacement, but do you see anything else that we need to do or we want to include? And what are the projects, we can include in the CIP? This is our time, the CIP is a plan, you know what I mean? And so it's to bring idea for future development. And I don't know, Scott, do you have any new,
Well,
something that you would love to put in the CIP? And
Well, and again, similar to McGaw and Fahey Fields, where Fahey Fields is going to expand again. So we'll have some additional dollars that we can utilize to maybe continue to implement. I know this year we're putting in path lighting and the playground for Fahey Fields. They're still in that design is the parking lot and then a shelter and all of that. So I would envision when those dollars come in from the Fahey Fields, that we might include that in the McKee, or in the McGaw CIP. I really, the hub projects, typically I suspect what's going, Stoner Prairie, we got Stoner Prairie that we're working on. When the new developments come in, I think that's when we'll create a separate CIP for that specific development. For example, what's the one out on, Lacey Road to the west?
Quarry Ridge?
On the north side, no, on the north side. Remember they came in, there was a big development that was going on the corner of Lacey and Fitchburg, on the corner there.
Oh, yeah, I know what you say, yeah.
Yep. So I suspect just generally, what we'll do is we'll create new CIP accounts when those developments come in.
Okay.
So then we can kind of plan out what phase and how you want to develop those specific parks.
Another comment that some of the neighbors ask, they ask me why we don't do this, is on, where Oak Bank is, and Barricks? On the back, there is a big parking lot, a huge, in front of the fire station. And people say, why don't we ask like a small park with grass and some benching, and people can go and sit there, and I don't know.
Where's
So-
this?
Oh, it's on behind Oak Bank. I don't know. I know this private property and all of that, but so people are always looking for other places to. We can do a beer garden.
Provocateur.
No, we were going to be doing good, getting out at 8:00, and then you bring that up again now.
Yeah. I have just a question. We have Moraine Edge Park land acquisition, and that's out to 2029. And it'll be moved again. So looking to the future on that side of the city, something that is sounds like the description of like a community park. We've asked about adding, but advocating for this to be worked on, not at 2 million at a pop, and all your land acquisition's done, but isn't it really working with individual landowners to piece things together? And can it be approached differently than just a $2 million figure that gets pushed further and further down the road so it never happens?
Well, it typically, when is that 2 million?
I'm going to tell you, this is an idea that Alder Gabriela Hergar put there last year, with the intention that maybe eventually we can do that. To put in the CIP, she put $2 million like
Placeholder.
placeholder, but
Yeah.
but we don't know when the city can be serious in doing this, you know what I mean? But to have an idea is something that is on a wish list that we
Yeah.
would like to do.
Well, right, and it had been for a while and then removed
Then they took
in the
it out.
past.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
So we don't really have a system where, when we're trying to be forward-thinking about future areas, where you have a relationship or you have somebody who creates an initiative to make contact with landowners. You don't really know when things become available unless you have feelers out there. So I just would like to see some way of talking about this, because I just think it doesn't happen at all if it's just pushed off. Then the landowners themselves come up with their own ideas, and there's no way for them to know that this is something that's of interest. And maybe, not necessarily that we do anything to change this document this year, but to just revisit what is the Moraine Edge Park as it was proposed and envisioned when it became part of our comprehensive plan. Because it's there.
What I can do is I can send that to everybody so you know what it is. And typically what'll happen is when it gets to be 5 years out or whatever, then we'll begin to once it gets in that window, then you begin to start to work on work on those kind of preliminary things.
Yeah,
But I can certainly send off to everybody a little bit of information about the Marine Edge Park.
yeah. I mean, this would be, to my thinking, one where you have to have you don't have to have, but it moves along greatly if there's, again, those magical people out there, those someone who creates the Friends of the Fitchburg Parks, where you're looking into forward-thinking projects that are big, because it's a big project. It just doesn't magically happen.
Well, in fairness, we're busy with all the stuff.
Oh, I know,
that's
I'm
coming
not
into-
that's not a criticism at
Yeah.
all. I mean, I'm talking
No.
about community support.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
Scott, don't you need to include in the CIP the ag park? The agricultural park? Because we are doing an RFP for the design, so it shouldn't be in the CIP, this
The-
park?
What,
The agricultural park,
The egg park.
the ag park.
huh,
Because how we are gonna fund this thing? when,
right,
you know what I mean?
right. Well, and I think, case in point, that we'll figure out, once we have the design and the costs and things like that, then we'll be able to put some dollars in a CIP. Well, yeah, it wouldn't be until 2024 or so, yeah.
I think you need to put it as a placeholder
Okay,
in this
okay.
CIP because we are already
No.
doing the RFP, and so there is an intention eventually to build this park.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you can put it as a placeholder, put it like on 2025, 27.
Well, actually, I'm thinking we'd put it in 2023, actually, Julia. Yep, as a placeholder, because that's a good point, that we're doing the planning right now, so then we have a placeholder in there. Thank you.
And Patrick?
Yeah, something you said reminded me of something. I was a little over-focused on a particular other feature in McGaw Park, but I forgot that I wanted to make this comment. You mentioned about Fahey Fields and the path lighting by the pickleball courts. I want to comment that you should very carefully put that path lighting on the north side of the path, right up against the fence of the pickleball courts, because the mayor's original vision of the pickleball courts was specified as unlit pickleball courts. So if you put the path lighting right along on the north side of the edge there, right up against the fence, at least the 4 courts on the south will be lit. You're not going to be doing 8 courts full of people playing pickleball in the dark. At least you can light up the 4s and be good already and not have to come back with another big CIP for
this
pickleball
is
lights,
the-
because that may be, not possible.
Yeah, it's path lighting, it's
That's
not
path lighting,
pickleball
so
court.
put it
lighting.
on the north side of the path, so it partially lights up enough of the 4 courts on the south in the pickleball court area, so you can play, and you'll be good.
It's a 2-for-1.
Yes, it's a 2-for-1.
Okay, and Scott, do you have more that we're rolling through here?
Well, and I think, note that that's all for CIP, so I did take note of all the suggestions, and I'll include all of those if everyone's, make a motion to, to approve as discussed. That'd be great.
All right, we are looking for you. Or Sarah, I see your hand there.
Sorry, I just had one quick question. Can you remind me, Scott, for tree plantings, are those part of CIP or those are part of another? Budget process.
Yep, that's part of 290, that's operating expenses.
Shoot, sorry, I missed that. Because I know one thing that I thought was previously talked about was tree planting along the Quarry Hill Park path. That was, it was never listed, but it was something that I know Fahey had mentioned when the construction was being done, but can you remind me of the number? I apologize.
Oh, I'm not following what you're,
So the question is that we purchase a tree with operating money instead with CIP money?
It's operating, correct?
it's 290, it's in, tree planting is all in operating budget, right?
Okay.
Okay, so it's not in this presentation.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I was like, I didn't see it. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's,
No worries.
so now, we could entertain a motion to go ahead with the capital improvement plan as, with all these comments incorporated? Is that what you're looking for, Scott?
Please, yep.
A consensus vote, correct?
Well, just a vote on the CIP as discussed.
Yeah. Do we have that from somebody?
I'll move to approve the CIP as discussed.
Okay. Those in favor?
I wish to offer an amendment to remove the $10,000 from McGaw for the volleyball post.
We already voted
No, I'm amending the
no.
main motion. It's a valid motion.
Do we have a second?
You're going to hear it again.
So now I'm gonna have to make sure the minutes are all correct and all that good stuff.
So, there is no second, so we're back to,
I'll still include that Patrick made a friendly amendment to remove, but there was no second.
yes. Okay. So on the actual motion, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
On to communications.
Yep, Tree City USA, 23 years and running, so congrats to Anna for that. I will report Stoner Prairie Park design update. I'm hoping that we're gonna have something for the Park Commission to react to in April. So we're working on that. New playground surveys, we've got 2 new playgrounds, one at Fahey McGaw and then one at Hillside Heights. What I would like to be able to do is, we've currently have a letter out and surveys, and what I'm going to do is, I'm gonna include in the resolution the popular one by the votes of the neighbors, and then what'll happen is that'll be referred to the Park Commission, so I'm hoping that you'll be okay with me, because typically what the Park Commission will do is they'll go on the vote of the neighbors as far as which proposal they would like to see, but I'm gonna kind of skip you guys because in the interest of time, but the resolution will come back to you and I'll just recommend the high vote getters for both of those playgrounds, if that's okay.
Any objections to what Scott is suggesting?
Know that,
I have none.
No, I have a question.
I mean,
just
Okay.
kind of a heads up
giving them
for you.
to-
Okay, Julia has a question.
So what is going to be the surface of this playground?
That there'll be a mulch.
Wood mulch.
I think we need to start thinking in the future our new parks, they need to be ADA compliant.
The mulch is ADA compliant.
Yeah, but you have a wheelchair, you cannot go in the mulch. Okay, so I think we need to start thinking about how we become more inclusive and community, and in our new parks, if we can start including that type of surface, so we can, everyone can play. You know what I mean?
Certainly, and where we would do that is in the reoccurring park system improvements, and that's where we include all the updated playgrounds, and what we would have to do is probably double the cost of those to include the inclusive playgrounds, or include the port in place, which we can do, but just, I appreciate the comment, that's for sure.
Patrick?
Okay, so about the playground equipment, that's what we're on now, right?
Yes,
Okay, right, so you were sending letters out? Do you know how many letters you're sending out to the Hillside Heights neighbors for that neighborhood park?
maybe 50, within the small radius of a neighborhood park, you're right?
Right, yeah, Hillside Heights neighborhood.
About 50 probably.
Okay, so that's a neighborhood park. And then the next one there, you like to call the next one Fahey Fields / McGaw Park, but Fahey Fields is the subdivision. This is the map, and the pickleball courts are in the western edition of McGaw Park, so that is eligible for the community park funds, such as, I think, some money from, that was used for the pickleball courts. So this is in the McGaw Park Community Park. And I'm wondering if you're then sending out the letters to the whole community.
No, I am not. What I'm doing is,
Community park.
this playground will function as the Fahey Fields Neighborhood Park. So I'm working with the Fahey Fields Neighborhood Group for this playground. So I sent it to the crossings and then all the new homes in the Fahey Fields development. And I didn't send it to, to you guys in Tarpley Wick and all of those kinds of things. Because just as I didn't send the S. Johnson letter to the Fahey Fields people, because the S. Johnson Park is kind of your neighborhood park.
Yeah, exactly that point. The S. Johnson, Seymour Johnson Park belongs to Tarpley Wick Hills, but McGaw Park is a community park, and people walk in from all over. So I can kind of recognize you're not sending the letters out to the entire community, which would be 6,000 households and about 15,000 apartments, but it should be to everyone within walking distance of McGaw Park. Walking distance seems reasonable because people walk across the park and everything, so I think that would include not only the Fahey Fields, but also the 70 condos in the crossing, the 13 houses in Dahmer's Drive, the 500 apartments in the Addison, they walk through McGaw Park, and the 35 houses in Tarpley Wick Hills. But, yeah, I would leave off things
Well,
like Swan Creek across the road, Northern Lights across the road, Waterford Glen is a little farther to the west, Quarry Hill is far to the west, but Sarah lives over there, and I see Sarah walking in McGaw Park. So, I mean, it's walking distance, but that's getting a little far.
And I guess I made an executive decision, if you would, and I just sent it to the Crescent Crossing folks and the Fahey Fields development people. So I didn't send it to all those other ones.
Crescent Crossing is something else.
Or the Crossings. I sent it to the Crossings group and then the Fahey Fields group. I didn't send it to all the other,
Well, I'm pointing out
neighbors that
those
you-
others that I listed are in walking distance. A lot of people go for walks through McGaw Park.
right? I didn't send it to all of those people.
But I want to be clear. Can I ask a question? So this one is where is gonna be the playground? In which it's not gonna be McGaw Park. It's gonna be in the Fayhill new neighborhood, isn't it?
Yep, it's going to be to the west of the pickleball court.
Yeah. So
there.
it should be. Yeah, it should be the. It's not part of the McGaw Park.
Yes, it is.
For definitions purposes, it's added, correct me if I'm wrong, the land was added in and technically is part of the community park boundaries. However, the funds are coming from the development funds from the
Fahey
Fahey
Fields,
developments.
And
Entirely
again,
proper.
this is going to, community parks can be a neighborhood park, an area park, and a community park. So this feature is going to be the neighborhood portion of the park. So I sent it to that direct neighborhood was my thought.
Okay. It's reasonable to me to leave it as is.
Just don't call it Fahey Fields Park. It's not.
Okay, are we good? So that's that communication. And I think that concludes the communication portion. Sue?
Okay. We are on the staff reports and updates, please. Go right ahead, Scott. If there's anything you would like to remark about staff reports and updates? Do you have anything? Oh, okay,
No.
all right.
I
Do you have a question?
Questions then. In the past, we had requested the TAC, Tree Advisory Committee minutes, and they're not in our packet this time, but they did have a meeting in the past month.
Yeah, they met in February.
That'd be an oversight, but I didn't think I thought
I looked it up, February 10th, I think, which is since our last meeting.
they-
no, I stand corrected on that if I didn't include that.
Okay, and then I have a few other questions after the staff reports, after we're done with staff reports.
I had one question about the recreation report. Because in there, they mention that they do announcements via Facebook and email. Would they be able to look into also posting notices of interest on Nextdoor Fitchburg? And it could be as simple as just posting a link to another way to get to the city website to see that information. It doesn't have to involve a lot of time, but there are a lot of Fitchburg residents who get updates via Nextdoor Fitchburg.
So yeah, I'm not, I don't know
Well, Cece might be able to,
what's that?
I don't know, Cece Stagey, am I not?
It's CC, yep, I
She
can
might-
ask him.
I mean, yeah, just ask. Because, I mean, anybody can post on it that's registered, and certainly the city of Fitchburg can. In fact, you'll see people, residents post, hey, something's going, that they have seen on the city website, and they'll pick up the link and post it and notice it. So if there's regular announcements that are put on Facebook that could go on there, it might be reaching a bigger audience.
Yeah, I don't know how that works, to be
Right.
honest with you.
It's not, well, I'm just saying it's not difficult, so ask
I-
Cece.
You're
And-
specifically
I-
talking about Nextdoor?
I'm talking about Nextdoor, yes.
Yeah, I'm on Nextdoor, but you have to be a verified resident in a certain neighborhood in order to be on there. I do see, postings obviously from people in the various neighborhoods. I see postings from Jack Pearson, our building inspector, but he's a Fitchburg resident, so he answers things. So I'm not sure if the city can, register as being a resident at this address and then post things.
I don't know how that works.
Okay, Julia.
Yes, I want to make a final recommendation about the recreation and how we can use the golf course during winter time. I think we need to do a better partnership with the person who is running the place in winter time. Because we have this opportunity, this big park, because they don't do any activity. They don't provide any activity. And I think we need to provide the city, we need to partner with them, or we need to take control in the winter about that park and provide some activities there. It will be great if we can think for next year. My recommendation, because it's kind of like no one uses that park in winter, and we can do snowshoeing, we can teach the kid to do that, we can do cross-country ski, a lot of stuff we can do there.
Yep, okay.
Okay, and Patrick?
You're talking about the Ninth Spring Golf Course, right?
Yes.
Okay, in the past, Dan had organized a bunch of winter activities, tobogganing and sledding, and I don't know, he had a lot of things for the winter.
Well,
Did that
and-
discontinue?
Well, that we really didn't have much snow, so we weren't able to provide much. But typically, all of the parks are available for people if they want to go snowshoeing or cross-country skiing. We don't have any
Those were other things.
real organized, and I think that's what Julie is referring to, is that, to have snowshoe clinics or tobogganing or all those kinds of things, which, we really don't do any of those outdoor those outdoor winter type of programming opportunities. So point well taken.
Okay. Go ahead.
And the other thing that we can do also organize in the winter time, like you do in the summertime, sometime with the water park in Baraboo that you sell tickets, here in the city hall. How we can organize maybe trip to go to with the Fitchburg department and partnership with the Tidal Basin to go on Friday afternoon or Saturday afternoon with the kid to ski there, Something like that, how to start thinking outside the box and maybe expose our kids, especially kids that they don't have the resources or they don't have the opportunity to experience those winter sports, I don't know.
Well, and I know we do downhill ski trips with the school district, and we're always open to program options and opportunities. So, send them to us, and we'll see what we can do. It's we need someone to run it. We need, all of those kinds of things. And at the end of the day, I think one of our goals is to make the hub, if you would, our winter, our winter activity with the south side with the golf course, and certainly the north side with the ice rink and all of those kinds of things. So we're really trying to have that be our winter playground, if you would. And there's sledding hills and lots of other things that we have within the park system for the winter activities.
Okay, Patrick.
Actually, winter activities in McGaw are very popular for snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, hiking, walking with dogs, especially in the woods and the trails because it cuts down the wind. Then I have,
They're all available, all the public parks are available for those activities, right?
then if we're done with the staff reports, I have some comments that I wanted to add at this point.
Okay.
Okay, one thing here that I wanted to mention, in our January meeting, we had a presentation by a developer who made a suggestion about his valuable parkland is more valued than others. I don't want to say too much about it because it gives them ideas. At the last council meeting, a different developer right away started saying to the common council how encouraged and happy and looking forward to this idea of the thing they were sort of inventing of parkland credits, where, as our January developer said, they wanted to use credits from one of their projects to one of their other projects. And it sounded like the very next thing that this person had in mind was maybe they can start, it sounded like the very next thing would be they'd start buying and selling credit between developers. And to that, I would say we have to keep that in check and not allow that, because the end result of all of this is the city of Fitchburg park system is going to own all of the mosquito-infested swampland because they can buy it so cheap and then give it to us as parkland. Next point, I forgot to mention this in the February, no, I think it was in January. Well, sometime back in January, there was an announcement on the TV station news that I caught that I wanted to mention. There was a $10,000 anonymous donation to the Gorman Wayside Veterans Memorial Park that I wanted to mention for our benefit. Next question, I presume I looked at McKee ice skating, and it looks like ice skating is done for the year? Okay, all right. And why are the McGaw pickleball courts locked?
We unlocked them today.
Oh, okay. Because I looked at the McKee tennis courts yesterday, and they were not locked, and I wondered why the difference.
Right.
I mean, the snow melted off, and it was clear and dry Monday.
Yep, we unlocked them today, so.
Okay.
Future agenda items, anybody have?
I'm sure there'll be
No,
some.
it'll be full. And our announcements, the next two meetings, April 7th and May 5th. Motion to adjourn,
Move to adjourn.
in favor?
Aye.
Hi, it's 8:30.
Let's see if I can't get the minutes correct on that one.